There exists a particular brand of nightmare that doesn't announce itself with fangs or claws. It doesn't lurk in shadows or hide beneath beds. No, this nightmare sits across from you at dinner, discussing philosophy over a glass of Chateau de Quem. It compliments your shoes while cataloguing your weaknesses. It smiles with practiced charm while deciding which wine would best complement your liver. This is the horror of Hannibal Lecter, a monster who has perfected the art of wearing humanity like an exquisitely tailored suit, never once letting you forget that beneath the silk and sophistication, something utterly inhuman is watching, waiting, and always hungry. The true terror of Hannibal Lecter doesn't reside in what he does, though his actions are horrifying beyond measure. The real horror lives in the disconnect between the refined gentleman who can discourse on Dante and the predator who views human beings as livestock. He is evolution's cruelest joker mind of staggering brilliance, yoked to appetites that belong in prehistory's darkest cane. This is the horror of genius unshackled from conscience, the void where empathy should live. If you cut Hannibal Lecter open, you wouldn't find a heart beating with human warmth. You'd find a clockwork mechanism, intricate and precise, ticking away without ever feeling a single second pass. This is sociopathy refined to its purest, most crystalline form, not the chaotic violence of a street thug or the disorganized brutality of a spree killer, but something cold, controlled, and infinitely more disturbing. He feels nothing when he kills. Not pleasure in the conventional sense, not anger, not even the hollow satisfaction a sadist might extract from suffering. His victims aren't people to him. They're problems to be solved, annoyances to be eliminated, or opportunities to be exploited. When he murders the census taker who came to his door, it's not a crime of passion or necessity. It's a culinary decision. The man was rude, therefore he became lunch. The logic is impeccable if you remove the inconvenient variable of human life having inherent value. This emotional void is what makes his cannibalism so uniquely horrifying. We can understand monsters who kill in rage or desperation. We can even comprehend serial killers driven by twisted compulsions they can't control. But Hannibal's consumption of human flesh isn't compulsive, it's deliberate, aesthetic, even ethical within his warped framework. He doesn't eat people because he must. He eats them because they fail to meet his standards of civilization. He's not a monster despite his refinement is the monstrosity. He's created a philosophy that justifies his predation, turning murder into a form of social criticism executed with knife and fork. Consider the horror of his dinner parties. He serves exquisite meals to friends and colleagues, respected members of society who complement his culinary skills while consuming human organs prepared with truffle oil and paired with carefully selected wines. These diners don't know what they're eating, of course, but Hannibal does. He watches them savor every bite, and in that moment, the joke is on all of humanity. Our civilization, our culture, our elaborate social rituals, all of it is just a thin membrane stretched over the same primordial hunger. He hasn't transcended human nature. He's honest about it in ways that society refuses to be. The mask of the compassionate healer hears where the nightmare deepens, where horror fiction meets psychological dread in its most potent form. Hannibal Lecter can appear to be the most insightful, helpful, almost kind presence in your life. This isn't a flaw in his monster design, it's the feature that makes him truly terrifying. When he guides Clarice through her trauma, helping her confront the memory of those screaming lambs, his counsel is genuinely effective. A real therapist couldn't have done it better. He asks the right questions, provides the right observations, and pushes her toward genuine psychological growth. His advice works. She becomes stronger, more capable, more complete because of his intervention. This should be impossible. How can a creature devoid of empathy provide therapeutic healing? How can a monster who sees people as meat help someone become more fully human? The answer is chilling. He understands human psychology not through feeling, but through study. He's memorized all the patterns, learned all the triggers, catalogued every variation of human emotion. When he helps Clarice, he's not feeling her pain, he's solving an elegant puzzle. Her trauma is fascinating to him, the way a complex mathematical proof, not because he cares whether she heals, but because he understands the mechanism of trauma and recovery with perfect, cold clarity. This is a horror that many people never consider, that therapeutic wisdom and emotional connection are not the same thing. Hannibal can explain exactly why you feel what you feel, can even help you process those feelings into healthier patterns, all while not caring about you as a person any more than you care about a crossword puzzle you're completing. You're an interesting problem. Once you're solved, you cease to interest him, or worse, you become useful in other ways. His relationship with Clarice carries an additional layer of dread. What appears to be affection might actually be ownership. When he shows concern for her, when he calls her after his escape just to check that she's safe, is this love? Or is it the proprietary interest a collector takes in a prized acquisition? She's his greatest creation, the caterpillar he helped transform into a butterfly, and he wants to ensure his masterpiece remains unspoiled. The horror lies in never knowing which interpret the true simultaneously in his alien consciousness. The predator who calls it friendship, the television adaptation. What happens when this monster decides you're worth keeping alive? At least the cursed detective becomes the focus of Hannibal's fascination, and the result is a masterclass in psychological terrorism disguised as friendship. Will's gift is also his curse. He can step into the minds of killers, can reconstruct their thoughts and motivations with such accuracy that he essentially becomes them temporarily. It's a horrifying talent, one that slowly tears his psyche apart. Hannibal sees this gift and wants to own it, to shape it, to twist Will into a mirror image of himself. But he doesn't do this through obvious manipulation. Instead, he becomes Will's friend, his therapist, his only confidant who seems to understand the darkness Will touches every day. The betrayal is exquisite in its cruelty. Hannibal frames Will for his own murders, planting evidence and manipulating perceptions so thoroughly that Will questions his own sanity. He gaslights Will with the precision of a surgeon, each conversation calibrated to deepen the confusion, to make Will wonder if he might actually be the killer. And all the while, Hannibal plays the concerned friend, visiting Will in the psychiatric hospital, offering comfort and counsel, never breaking character even when they're alone. This is friendship as warfare, connection as consumption. What makes this particularly nightmarish is that Hannibal genuinely believes he's helping Will. In his alien value system, he's freeing Will from the constraints of conventional morality, showing him that he doesn't have to be merely an observer of darkness. He can embrace it, inhabit it, become something magnificent and terrible. Hannibal sees Will's empathy not as a virtue but as a cage, and he's methodically cutting through the bars while convincing Will that he's building a palace. This is predation elevated to philosophy. Hannibal doesn't just want to kill Will or even destroy him psychologically. He wants to transform him, to corrupt him, to make Will choose darkness not because he's been broken, but because he's been shown a vision of the world where their violence is justified, even beautiful. It's the vampire's seduction, but worse, because vampires offer immortality. Hannibal offers only the cold comfort of abandoning your humanity. Alongside him, the tragedy and the horror is that part of Will is drawn to this vision. Not because he wants to be a killer, but because Hannibal offers understanding without judgment. In the entire world, only Hannibal sees Will's darkness and accepts it, even celebrates it. That acceptance is intoxicating, even when Will knows it's poison. This is how monsters recruit, not by forcing you, but by showing you that they alone understand the worst parts of you and love you anyway. The fact that their love is possessive, predatory, and ultimately fatal doesn't make it any less seductive. The mirror that reflects our darkest selves. Most disturbing aspect of Hannibal Lecter's character isn't what makes him different from Usit's, what makes him similar. Strip away the cannibalism and the murders, and you're left with someone who possesses traits our society often celebrates: intelligence, culture, refined tastes, psychological insight, and unwavering self-confidence. He's successful, admired, invited to the best parties. He's exactly the kind of person we're told to aspire to be. Except he also kills and eats people. This proximity to normalcy is the source of the deepest horror. Hannibal isn't a creature from another dimension or a victim of supernatural possession. He's what happens when human intelligence evolves without the parallel evolution of empathy. He's a thought experiment made flesh. What if someone had all the cognitive abilities of a genius, all the social skills of a master manipulator, but none of the emotional connections that make us care about each other's suffering? He holds up a mirror to our species and shows us an uncomfortable truth, that civilization is a thin veneer, that our elaborate moral codes are social constructs rather than natural laws, and that intelligence, divorced from compassion, can justify absolutely anything. When Hannibal explains why he murdered someone because they were rude, or because they failed to appreciate beauty, or simply because he was curious what their pancreas would taste, like his logic is internally consistent. It's only monstrous because we've agreed collectively that human life has value. But what if you don't share that agreement? What if you see humans the way we see cattle? Then Hannibal's actions aren't evil. They're just pragmatic. This is horror at its most philosophical. The realization that morality might be nothing more than a shared delusion. And that someone like Hannibal has simply seen through the illusion. He's not sick or broken from his perspective. He's liberated. He's rejected the arbitrary constraints that the rest of us accept without question, and as a result, he can do anything. Anything at all. The nightmare across the table. Imagine sitting across from Hannibal at dinner. The setting is perfect: a converted church with vaulted ceilings, classical music playing softly, candles casting warm light across the table. The food is extraordinary, each course a revelation of flavor and technique. Your host is charming, attentive, knowledgeable about every topic you raise. The wine flows freely. The conversation sparkles. It's one of the finest evenings you've ever experienced. And then, in a moment of sudden clarity, you realize you don't know what you're eating. That pause, that moment of horrible recognition, that's the essence of Hannibal's horror. It's not just physical danger, though that's certainly present. It's the violation of trust, the weaponization of intimacy, the transformation of civilization's most fundamental social ritual, breaking bread together into predation. You thought you were a guest. You were livestock being evaluated. The scariest part, you'll never know for certain. Maybe this time, it really was duck. Maybe he likes you too much to eat you. Maybe he's saving you for a special occasion. Or maybe he's already planning your menu while you compliment his choice of wine. The ambiguity is the knife that never stops cutting. The unpredictable algorithm of evil. What separates Hannibal from typical horror monsters is unpredictability masked as absolute control. A zombie will always try to eat you. A slasher villain will always try to kill you. Their motivations are simple, their actions straightforward. But Hannibal, you never truly know what he wants from any given interaction. Is he helping you? Testing you? Fattening you up? Using you as a pawn in some elaborate scheme? The answer could be all of these simultaneously, and you won't know which until it's far too late. This uncertainty is psychologically corrosive. When you're dealing with a traditional monster, you know the rules. Survival becomes a simple, if difficult, equation. But with Hannibal, every word might be manipulation. Every kindness might be preparation for betrayal. Every piece of advice might be a trap. He could be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. And the distinction might simply depend on whether you bore him. He embodies every fear we have about the people around us. What if the person who seems to understand you best is actually studying you? What if the friend who gives you advice is actually steering you toward destruction? What if the mentor who elevates your career is grooming you for something unspeakable? Hannibal is these fears made manifest. He's the nightmare scenario where someone who appears to care about you actually sees you as an amusing diversion, a useful tool, or a potential meal. The evolution beyond humanity. Perhaps the most unsettling interpretation of Hannibal is that he's not broken at all. He's simply evolved past the need for emotional connection. From his perspective, empathy is a weakness, a vestigial evolutionary trait that served our ancestors but now merely limits our potential. He's transcended human nature the way we transcended our ape ancestors. He's what comes next. If next is a direction that abandons compassion entirely, this reading transforms him from a cautionary tale into something even more disturbing, a preview. What if intelligence continues to grow while empathy remains static? What if future generations look back on our emotional attachments the way we look back on primitive superstitions? Hannibal might not be an aberration. He might be a prophet, showing us the cold, precise, utterly inhuman destination of pure rationality. In this light, every act of kindness he performs is patronizing. He helps Clarice the way we might help an injured bird knot, because we see it as an equal, but because its struggle is aesthetically pleasing, and we enjoy playing God. His relationship with Will becomes an attempt to uplift a lesser being to his level, to help someone escape the prison of feeling. He's not a monster. He's a missionary trying to spread the gospel of disconnection. The final horror. There is no cure unlike most movie monsters. Hannibal cannot be defeated, redeemed, or even truly understood. He escapes at the end of Silence of the Lambs, not because of luck or oversight, but because he's simply better at the game than everyone hunting him. He walks away with new documents, a new identity, and the same appetites. He's still out there, still hunting, still wearing that perfectly tailored human suit. There's no magic ritual that will destroy him, no silver bullet, no exorcism. He can be captured, but his mind remains inviolate. Even imprisoned, he's dangerous because he can reach through bars with words and manipulate the free world beyond. His intellect is his superpower, and you can't lobotomize it away without destroying the very thing that makes him fascinating to observe. More disturbing still, there are more like him. The world is full of people who look human, act human, but lack the crucial ingredient that makes us care about each other. Hannibal is extraordinary in his refinement and control, but he's not unique in his fundamental nature. For every Lecter who builds an empire of sophisticated horror, there are countless others playing smaller, nastier games in offices, relationships, and families. The real nightmare isn't one brilliant monster. It's the realization that the absence of empathy might be more common than we want to believe. Conclusion: the taste of fear. Hannibal Lecter endures as a horror icon because he exploits fears that never age. We'll always be afraid of predators hiding among us. We'll always be disturbed by intelligence without conscience. We'll always be horrified by the gap between appearance and reality, between the mask someone wears and the truth beneath. But more than this, he disturbs us because he asks uncomfortable questions. If morality is a construct, what makes his choices wrong? If intelligence is our highest virtue, why shouldn't it be deployed in service of any goal, no matter how dark? If evolution is about survival and reproduction, why should we value a stranger's life over our own pleasure? These questions don't have easy answers, and Hannibal is what happens when someone decides they don't need answers at all. So the next time you enjoy a fine meal, appreciate a beautiful painting, or listen to a Bach partita, remember, culture and refinement are no guarantee of humanity. The monster doesn't always announce itself with roars and fangs. Sometimes it offers you a glass of wine, discusses the nature of beauty, and asks with genuine curiosity in its eyes what you're afraid of. And if you can answer that question honestly, you've just handed Hannibal Lecter the sharpest knife in his collection. Sweet dreams.